Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, Do Not Mix Thoughts with Emotions. Emotions, feelings, or sensations, the same thing. What I mean by that? Well, first of all, remember that what we're talking about here is about the nature of our being, which is non-dual, which have nothing to do with the human experience, has nothing to do with feelings, sensations, emotions, and such. However, themes like that come into play because it seems as though we're here, as if this is our experience, and you see how this human experience is processed through the content of the mind. And the mind is nothing but a thought in all that there is, which give rise to the appearance of the seeming world of projection, through thinking, through thought. Without thought, all that there is what is. So anyhow, what we are in essence is the ever-present background, unmoving, unshakable, unaltered. This is what we are. That's it. There's nothing else to say about that. The thing is that when the thought, you see, when the thought of a seeming me appears in all that there is, now all of a sudden it appears as if there's a me which is separate from everything else. And now everything else, as perceived through thinking, that's where the seeming fragmentation happens. For example, right now it seems as if though I am looking at a camera, okay? But in reality, I am not looking at the camera. Looking or seeing is just happens. It's completely independent of a seeming me. It's just what is. But in the mind, a thought that says camera appears because it's something that is being learned. Therefore, when I'm looking, or in the scene, put it this way, this object without the thought camera is part of all that there is. But because the thought camera is in the mind, now all that there is fragmented, and one of those fragmentations is this thing that I seem to have in front of me called the camera, because of the thought. Without the thought camera, all that there is just part of the oneness that I am. So you see, because the thought me, now there's thoughts that seems to fragment everything else. Without the thought me, all that there is what is. Okay? So, within the seeming illusion of a me, where there seems to be a person or something that supposedly have thoughts and at the same time can have feelings, sensations, and emotions. Well, the first thing is that if we see thoughts as such, then not a problem. If we don't believe in any of them because the thought I individual has been investigated and there's no such thing as an individual, then thoughts are thoughts. Feelings and emotions are just sensations appearing in all that there is. See? What happens is when the thought I individual is believed in, now the seeming sensations and feelings appear, and they seem to be appearing, and not only appear but also they seem to be mine. You see? Because the thought I individual is in place, therefore feelings are my feelings and the thoughts are my thoughts. So what tends to happen is that we take a thought that arises, we take a feeling that arises, and we treat them as if they are somehow linked together. You see? If you look at a feeling that appears in your life and you don't give it any meaning, the feeling is just a sensation. Sometimes it's pleasant, sometimes may not be pleasant. But there's no fear, there's no threat, there's no story around it. See? Now, when the feeling appears and the thought immediately translate that, always translating it in regards to the me, you see. So this is my feeling. What does it mean? Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? So when the mind engages, all of a sudden we are lost completely in this play of the thought translating the feeling, but all of that is simply because the thought I individual has not been investigated. So when people deal with strong emotions, they think that they have to understand the emotion, they try to translate it, they try to figure it out, when in reality it's just a passing cloud. And what we're remembering here is that we are. So when once that is seen as such, then emotions can show up, feelings can show up, sensations can show up, and that's fine, they're just that. And thoughts appears as well. The difference is that now they're seen as separate and they're not linked together. And the mind could say, but if I have a feeling in my stomach, shouldn't I, is it wrong with the mind saying there's a feeling in the stomach, therefore I should go to a doctor, or should I do something? This is not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is the feeling in the stomach is a feeling in the stomach, end of story. It means absolutely nothing. Now, feeling in the stomach happens. A thought of, can I do something about it, happens. Well, that's fine. It can be seen as, okay, well, maybe I can do something about it. It could be going to a doctor. It could be simply giving a little time for it to go away. Whatever the case may be. But just that type of thinking does not generate fear nor anxiety or nothing. It's just simply seen as such because the thought I individual has been fully investigated. So in the world of appearances, the thought may appear to deal with the sensation, but now we're not making the mistake of making a story around the sensation, which that is thought, you see, and that is the story that complicates things. Otherwise, without the story, all that there is a feeling, a sensation that appear, which means absolutely nothing. And without the thought translating it, then again, it's just simply what happens. And we are always pointing to the fact that we are the space-like, if you want to use that term, in which the thought as well as the sensation seem to appear. Because of course the thought me seem to appear in it. So by not identifying with the content of the mind, then sensations or feelings, they can be experienced, but they're no longer a cause for suffering. They're not a cause of fear or anything else. It's just simply a sensation. Each sensation may have their different textures. If you don't label it anything, it's just what it is. Like I was talking to a friend and he said, sometimes I feel this anxiety. I said, no, you're just feeling something. Label it anxiety is a total different story. And then if on top of that you use the mind to tell you the cause of the anxiety, then that's a total different story again, making things more complicated. All you know is that you are. We always are. And in the are-ness or isness, in the amness that we are, that's it, they're just ever-present being. In there, a thought appears. Don't label it, just simply see it. Sensation appears. Don't label it, just see it as such. And then you rest in the peace that passes all understanding, in spite of the thoughts, in spite of the feelings and the sensations. Because the investigation that is being made here is the recognition that I am. And it's not that you, the individual, make an investigation to recognize that I am. I'm just pointing to what is. Right now, if you don't identify with any thoughts, even the thought that is interpreting these words, the thought that claims that is looking at a video and is watching someone with a yellow shirt or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you don't identify with any thoughts, nothing. And even the feelings that you may be experiencing right now, you leave them as such, as is. That's it. You don't give it any meaning. You don't project any interpretation. Just leave it as that. Don't identify with any thoughts. Don't identify with any feelings. Just simply, again, they are. It's just life is. Don't identify with anything. In just plain beingness, what remains. But you see, what remains is not something that you can describe, and it's not something that you can label or name. That's why I said, if you say, I feel a peaceful, no, you don't, just drop everything. Drop everything. You see? And in the dropping of everything, what is left, which is what is, which always is, that is what these videos are pointing to. You see? They're pointing to the ever-present life itself. This is what it's pointing to. It's not pointing to the descriptions or the interpretations that the mind is trying to make of the present experience. This is non-conceptual. This is just wide open. This is all there is. And in the isness, feelings and sensations may appear, thoughts will appear, but nothing will distract you from the fact that you are. This is what these videos are pointing to. This is very simple. This is not complicated. We don't need the mind to get involved. There's nothing to do to become anything. This is it. You see? And because of the thought I individual with all the ideas of what I think it wants or what I think it knows and everything complicates the obvious. When you're sleeping, when you're in bed sleeping, that's it. It's very simple. The moment the mind begins to dream a dream, you see, all the image and all the things that happen in the dream is a distraction to what is, and what is you in bed sleeping. And this is the obviousness of this experience here, that we're so caught up into the mind's interpretation, the thought, the thinking, and on top of that the feelings and the mind making a sense of all that stuff, that we're overlooking that all of that seems to be happening in what is. You see? So right now, resting in beingness, this is all there is. Now you're sort of like the witness, and even the word witness is not exactly non-dualistic, because witness implies the witness and that what is being witnessed. But I'm trying to use the best, within the limitation of language, words that hopefully point to the obvious. Right now, without the identification of any thought, without giving meaning to anything, without making any stories around anything, again, without believing any thoughts, without identifying with the thoughts, just notice what remains. And what remains is always, it's eternal. That which remains is in which thoughts, feelings, sensations, and everything seem to appear, beginning with the thought I, seeming individual. Without that thought, then nothing has anything to attach to. I cannot say that I'm good or that I am bad unless I believe that I'm something, and the moment I believe that I'm something, which is a thought, now that something can be good, can be bad, or I should say could be labeled good or labeled bad, labeled male, labeled female, labeled successful, labeled a failure, labeled talented, labeled untalented, labeled everything you can possibly think of, just because that seeming center is in there. But when the investigation is done and there's a realization that there's no center, that simply is, then all these other labels have nothing to attach to, and that's how you experience, not that you experience, you see the limitation of language, but I should say that is how it's experienced, what is referred to as the peace that passes all understanding, also known as happiness, and you could say also known as love. You see? So now notice that feelings, sensations appear, and that's fine. They're just part of the tapestry of this seeming human experience. Feelings, sensations appear. Let them be just by themselves. Don't attach one with the other one. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. I don't know what it means. Oh, I have a stomach ache. What should I do? Don't worry about it. If you have a stomach ache, you notice how life naturally will move the instrument to do something about it, which could be taking a pill, which could be going to the doctor, it could be doing nothing. I don't know. But at least there's no suffering, there's no anxiety, there's none of the labels that we place on the feelings and sensations. They're just simply just what is. And we're resting in what is. We're remembering here what is, you see, which has no story, simply is. I am, God is, life is, love is, simply is. And well, that's the inspiration that came through this instrument. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.